Okay, we're live, guys. Hold on. Hey, Jennifer. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the live stream, co-creation live stream on making light of motherhood. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. Thank you for the support. I'm really fired up for today's event. It's evening for me, so just excuse me if I say tonight or that type of words. Just really excited to get this started. I'm Alexia Vlachos-Kolokasidis. I'll be your host for today. And I have an amazing panel of leaders and coaches from around the world who are ready to share some, hold on. Some background noise here. I don't know what that is. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. So we can get this show on the road with Kelly. Let me just introduce everybody first again. You know who the speakers are already. I'm just going to give a quick name call. We've got Kelly Hutchison, Sandra Fazio, and Nicole Telfer, Amanda Votto, and Shannon Rose. Shannon is unable to join us from the get-go. She'll be hopping on a little bit later. Okay, so I'm gonna open the floor for Kelly. She's gonna share with you about how you can stop yelling at your kids and bring more harmony into your home. Okay, so Kelly, you are on.
Hey everyone, my name is Kelly Hutchison, for those of you who don't know, and I help parents stop yelling at their kids, and I get the same email almost every single day that says, "Dear Kelly, I love my kids so much, but I can't stop yelling at them. No one listens to me, and so I yell more, and I'm on the crazy cycle, and I don't know how to stop." So they go to sleep with mommy guilt, and only to wake up the next day and promise themselves that they will not yell again. I don't know if you can hear me. I hear a little bit of echo.
Can you
hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. And so they are caught on this feeling of Groundhog's Day, which we just had in February here in the States, and they don't know how to stop. And so I always try to help parents come up with different reasons of why they don't want to yell anymore, because the yelling is never about your kids. It's always about a feeling of inner lack within ourselves, that sometimes we want to be the perfect parent, and in that quest of being the perfect parent, sorry, I'm getting a little feedback. In that quest of being the perfect parent, they are parenting from that fear-based place, and they're so frustrated because they love this child so much. And so I only know about the crazy cycle because I was on it for many years. I was a teacher and a counselor in the schools for so many years, and so I thought parenting was going to be kind of easy for me because I had all the training, I had all the background. I was a behavior specialist, so I dealt with the most severe behavior problems of the school when I was working in the schools. And so I was so curious on why I could manage 20 first graders who were 6 and 7 years old in a classroom, and there was a lot of goodness going on. There wasn't a lot of stress and chaos in the classroom. There was a lot of love, a lot of harmony, a lot of happiness, a lot of learning, and it was just a really good environment. But then I had 2 of my own children, and I couldn't figure out how I was able to manage and be okay with 20 kids in a classroom, 6 and 7 years old, who weren't even mine, but then I only had 2, and I was losing my mind. So I went on the quest and I went on the journey, and all of the speakers today are going to teach you so much about how to bring lightness into the motherhood, because a lot of times we set ourselves up for trying to be the perfect parent and trying to do all the things, when all we have to do is show up with love and kindness and confidence and all the abundance that we want our children to absorb from us, and let go of perfection and lean into being a B- parent, and knowing that our union with our child is perfect. The soul that you have a contract with is the child chosen for you, and you are chosen for that child. And that child will show you where you need to grow. They are your GPS. They are your greatest teacher. And so when you look away from the parenting journey as what can I teach my child, and you go into the parenting journey of what can I learn about my undeveloped self through my child, this child came through me, not from me, that is when life becomes a lot more fun, because you get a lot more curious and a lot more non-reactive. So I came up with 6 reasons that really help parents to have a very compelling why, because when you have a compelling why of why you want to stop yelling, and you take yelling completely off the table, then you're able to hear the other speakers and implement these strategies. I wasn't able to implement all the strategies that I had in the classroom because I was so enmeshed and codependent, and my ego was so wrapped up in doing it perfect that I was parenting from this fear-based place, and I couldn't use all the strategies that I knew. I had 20 years of strategies, so it wasn't about the strategies for me. It was about me understanding what the ego was, how I was parenting from fear, how I was trying to be the perfect parent. And in that quest to be the perfect parent, I felt very imperfect. And my child made me feel, I thought it was my child, but I really went within myself, and I found out that when I looked within, the answers were always within, because I was so focused on fixing my daughter and fixing my son. And I just thought if I could just fix my daughter and I could just fix my son, because there was something apparently wrong with them in my mind, if I could just fix the problem, which was them, I was giving all my emotional power to a 3-year-old, to a 2-year-old, to a 5-year-old. And that, my friends, is a lose-lose situation. Then I realized how to control my side of the street and realize why all this yelling, snapping, barking was even happening in the first place. And then life became a lot more fun and a lot lighter because I wasn't giving my emotional responsibility to little kids, because that is a lose-lose. So I came up with the analogy of cam gas. And I always want you to imagine that you have cameras on you at all times, and you are on a reality TV show. And when you are on a reality TV show and you have cameras all over the place, I want you to think about your life from being the watcher of your life. And when you think of your life as being on stage, then you become more conscious and you be more aware and conscientious and curious about, why is this causing such a big reaction for me? So the first C, when you have a compelling why, is connection. When you have connection with a child, you will have cooperation. Every parent wants their child to do what they say, but we are not listening to the child when they ask us to do things. How much are we connecting with them? And when you yell, scream, bark, name, call, spank, it literally breaks the connection, and the child now feels like, I cannot trust this other human, so now I'm going to dig my heels even stronger. If you have a strong-willed child and you're yelling at your strong-willed child, it'll make their behavior even get bigger. So I had one child who, when I was yelling, screaming, barking, name calling, whatever I was doing, I was a big snapper. I was just like pursed lips and very snappy. And so I had one child who got super compliant. He was like, I have my own throbbing spirit, but I will donate my throbbing spirit to you, mommy, because she just was like, I will do whatever just to keep you happy, just to make you happy, mommy. And so then I had another child who got super loud and got even louder. So in the end, you will have a child who will either get super compliant and kind of lose their sense of their own thinking and their own processing and their own mindset. And then you might get another child who gets super loud. And so the one who is acting out the most is the one who's going to teach you, is going to be your greatest guru. So when you're yelling, you're breaking the connection. So when you think about connection with a friend, with your spouse, with each other, if you ever had a boss yell at you, or sometimes I ask on Facebook, what would you do if you were volunteering at your child's school and you overheard the teacher yelling at your child? Every parent usually says, I would lose my mind, I would get them removed immediately, I would go to the superintendent, I would call the principal, I would get a meeting immediately, I would reprimand the teacher, I would put that on Facebook, and all these different things happen. And so I always tell that mama bear energy that you have about the child being yelled at by the teacher, have that same mama bear energy, because you don't want to break that connection. So that's the C and the gas cam. The A is attracted to you. When you are, the blueprint that you are, the way you're treating your children when they're younger is the blueprint for how they're going to be expected to be treated in their relationships, in their young adult relationships, and also in their future marriages if they decide to get married. So we want to set up a blueprint, and we want to set up this emotional laboratory in the home of what they're going to be drawn towards and also who they're going to become in their relationships. If your kids are little, it's hard to imagine them in high school and college having boyfriends and girlfriends, but that is coming down the line. And the way we treat them when they're younger and as they're growing and developing is how they're going to be expecting other people to treat them in their relationships, in their boyfriend-girlfriend relationships, in their fiance, in their marriages, if they decide to get married. And so you want to set up an environment where you're almost creating your future in-laws, because the way that you're treating each other is the way that they're going to be expected to be treated. If you've ever had a friend who is in a relationship and the other person is not treating them the way you feel they should be treated, the first thing you say is, you're like, get out of that relationship. Why are you putting up with this? This is not okay. They shouldn't be talking to you this way. They shouldn't be yelling. They shouldn't be hitting. They shouldn't be doing any of the things. You're so much better than this. And so when you are seeing that in other people, what they're doing is they're playing out something within their past, within their childhood, that feels familiar to them. So it blows your mind because you can see it from the outside looking in, like, what is going on while you're staying? And you have all the talks, but they don't even understand unconsciously that they're recreating something from their childhood, or they're recreating something from their little girl, a little boy living inside them that feels familiar to them. So if we take yelling completely off the table, then it feels very unfamiliar if they ever are in a situation with a girlfriend, with a boyfriend, with a coach, with a parent, with another parent, like if they're at another person's house, with a teacher, when they're in an environment, or they have a friend or someone that's yelling and treating them in a way that hurts, it will feel so unfamiliar to them that they will remove themselves from that situation or tell us, the parents, what's going on, because it's like, this is not okay. We're setting the standards for how they should be deserved to be treated and how they treat other people growing up. Because if they're little now, it's probably hard to imagine, but my kids are now 9 and 11. One's in middle school, and they're not under your nose as much as they used to be. And they don't always tell you all the things, but we want to set it up where their stomach hurts if they're in an environment that doesn't feel safe to them. Not like, oh, this is how I'm treated at home, so this feels good for a teacher to yell at me, or a coach, or another parent if they're at another house. The next one is modeling, the M for modeling. With the way that you're talking to your child is the way that they're going to talk to you. So I always encourage parents to only control their side of the street. What does that mean? They always say that apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I don't want you spending so much time worried about the apples in your tree and making sure that the apples are grateful and happy and confident and good at sports and great grades and all the things that we want. Instead, just model and embody the things that you want for your child to absorb from you, and they will absorb it from you when they need to absorb it. Children are like Bounty the Quicker Picker-Uppers. Bounty the Quicker Picker-Uppers. That's a very popular paper towel we have in the States. And it guarantees that it will absorb all the things. Children have a high absorbency rate. If you've ever been pregnant, maybe you're raising a child that is a foster child, or if you were ever pregnant, or you know someone who's pregnant, or if you were breastfed, or know someone who's breastfed. If you've ever been pregnant, whatever you were choosing to eat, you always say, I'm going to eat for two. I'm going to eat healthy because I want the baby to absorb it. Or if you're breastfeeding and the baby is breaking out in some type of rash, we always think about that. We get super curious if it was at the granola bar that's causing the rash. Maybe I'm having too much dairy. Am I drinking enough water? What's going on? We get super curious about why the rash happens. We don't just treat the rash. We get at the root cause. And so when we are working with other parents, we try to get to the root of why the yelling is even happening. How does this feel familiar in your past? How are you recreating an old wound in current time through your children? That is what the unconscious brain does. It tries to heal an old wound through a current time, or old pain, or old trauma. And so it actually sets up the dynamics between parent and child to try to heal that old wound. What happens is we end up re-injuring, and it doesn't heal the wound, and then we feel that pain over and over and over again. So we always want to model the energy that we want our children to absorb from us. That means when we're interacting with them, when we're interacting with the mail carrier, when we're interacting with our spouse if we're married, when we're acting with their sibling, the people at Starbucks, the people at Walmart, the people who cut us off on the highway, wherever you are, just model and embody and just be the tree that you want them to absorb, what you want them to absorb from you, when you want them, and you don't even have to choose when you want them to absorb it. Because children have a great way of monkey see, monkey do, so don't worry so much about the monkeys, just worry about the monkey that we are and get rid of our monkey mind and showing up and being and having the qualities in the tree that you want them to absorb. So if you want a love, kindness, abundance, happiness, all the things, be that tree, and then the apples within it, you don't even have to worry about them. You just focus on your side of the street, and then you get all your power back. Because I spent 5 years trying to control a 2- and a 4-year-old, and it was a lose-lose situation. I was so on their roller coaster of all their emotions, but once I got off the train, and I got off the crazy train, and after I got off the roller coaster, I was like, oh, I just have to control my side of the street like I did when I was a teacher. If I had a child or a student acting up, I was like, this child is really having a hard time. I never took it personally like this child's giving me a hard time. I was like, oh, we need to get the parents in, we need to get the principal involved, let's get the guidance counselor in, let's get a behavior plan going on. This child's really hurting. And this is kids who were like pulling me down in kindergarten. They were a kindergartner. I'm 6 months pregnant with my son. They're pulling me down. My walkie-talkie goes flying. I don't lose my mind. I'm like, wow, this kid's really hurting. Because hurting kids hurt other people. So how can I show up in a way that can help this child? Because our children do not come from us, they came through us. So when you're always modeling the energy you want them to absorb, they have a great high absorbency rate. The next one is G. Now, whatever you believe, our children do not belong to us. They came from God, they came from the universe, they came from the stork, they came from whatever you believe, they didn't come from us, they came through us. And they are here as our greatest teacher. And so sometimes our souls, before we even were born, our soul is the face that we had before we were born. And our souls are connected to this higher source, the universe, the stork, God, whatever you believe. I just use God as a universal term. And so what happens is we are connected, our souls are connected to that energy, and then we come through our mother's womb, and then we treat our parents like they are the new God. Like everything they say is golden. They are all of a sudden now we're connected to these humans that are imperfect, just like we all are. And then we think everything that they say, do, believe, and think is truth, because our soul wants to connect. And so when we see them as not belonging to us, see them as a student in our classroom, a child on the team that you're coaching, babysitting your niece and nephew, a child in your office if you've ever been a counselor, watching your neighbor's kids. When you see the child, that's detachment. When you see them as not belonging to you, then you see them as a reflection of God's love and this higher power versus a reflection of you. And then you take a lot of the pressure off of yourself and you're like, okay, I'm going to accept the as is of every single moment. What's the lesson here? How is this happening for me, not to me? And the next one is, and I have two more, authority. I have so many parents that tell me I want them to have respect for authority. I want them to have respect for authority. So when they show disrespect, I just lay into them because I want them to show respect for authority. And I agree with that 150,000% that I want my kids to have respect for authority. However, I also want authority to respect my child. It's a two-way street. So if I'm not respecting my child during the messy moments, then how are they going to be able to expect that from their teachers, from their coaches, from other people? And so the way that I'm treating them is the way I want their coaches to treat them, or their teachers, or the other neighbors, parents, or when they become a grown up and they're going to friends' houses, their boyfriends' houses, their girlfriends' houses. This is how I want authority to respect them in return. So it has to be a two-way street. And the last one is, if you have any other children in the home, this is the greatest way to sibling connection. Because when I have two kids, when I'm having a messy moment with my daughter and I'm holding the space and I'm being the calm in her storm and I'm doing all the steps that the other teachers are going to teach you today, my son, who's in the other room, not involved in this, he's picking up on all of it unconsciously. Okay, so when my sister upsets me, I'm going to do what mom does. And then conversely, when I'm working with my son and he's having a messy moment or a difficult moment or a really big emotion, because we want our kids to know how to feel emotions, all of them, good, bad, all the emotions. When he's having a messy moment, my daughter who's in the other room or in the kitchen, she's picking up on all like, okay, this is the default, this is the blueprint of how we treat each other. So then when they're working together, you'll see them using a lot of those same strategies because we want to teach them about emotional literacy. I want my kids to have all the feelings all the time, and I want to normalize it, I want to support, and I want to show them that this is part of the human experience. It's not something to run from, because if we teach our kids all the time, be happy, be happy, be happy, then they learn how to stuff their negative emotions. Then they think that negative emotions are bad, which means they are bad. So then they learn to stuff. If it's go to your room, go to timeout, just go away while you're feeling a negative emotion, they start to feel guilt and shame. And if they're 2, then when they're 12, then when they're 22, 32, I'm 45, I still have negative emotions. Sometimes I don't know what to do with. But I don't stuff them down anymore. I'm not holding them down underneath like a beach ball. Because when we teach our kids that negative emotions means you should have guilt and shame, when they're 22, 32, 42, and they have that negative emotion come up, they're going to say, oh, I need to put myself in timeout. They might try to buffer away from those feelings by drinking their feelings away, smoking their feelings away, eating their feelings away, shopping their feelings away, somehow trying to numb out that feeling. But if we can normalize it and teach them emotional literacy when they're young in our laboratory of the emotional literacy lab, then it normalizes it for them when they go out and they become an adult, and when they go out and they strike out at baseball, or the friend breaks up with them, or they don't make the team. They're just like, oh, this is part of the human experience. This isn't something I should run from like Forrest Gump. This is something I should run into because it's not as scary as I thought it was. And when we're teaching our kids to be scared of negative emotions and go away, go time out, bye, 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 then they learn negative emotions means something bad has happened. I need to make this stop immediately. Stuff it down. Holding that beach ball underneath water will cause more agita than actually just feeling the feelings, because it's just a vibration going through our body. And then we normalize it for our kids, then we normalize it for when they become older, and it's not so scary. So that's all I had. And so I'm going back to you, Alexia. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Okay,
yes,
great.
I can hear you now.
Thank you so much. A lot of valuable content there. You're amazing. Thank you so much. I forgot to mention when I was introducing everybody that you guys, after every 2 speakers, you will get an opportunity to ask questions. So make sure you're writing down your questions on a piece of paper or wherever. And so, for example, after Sandra has her presentation, I will open up the panel or the chat box where you can put in your questions if you have any, and the responsible coach will reply to you. Okay, so I forgot to mention that. Sorry about that. And I'm going to mute you now, Kelly.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with all of you guys. What a great way to segue into what I have to share today. Kelly and I actually share a lot of similarities from the journey that we've been on. That's where we've kind of met, was this path of conscious parenting through Dr. Shefali's work. And so I, like herself, have been on this quest of self-growth and transformation. I'm a truth seeker at the core, and somebody who has just trialed life on every level. And in those experiences and trials and errors and discoveries and everything you can name under the sun, I've been led here in this moment. And my conversation with you today is very informal. It's like we're all just hanging out, having tea like we're doing. So I don't have anything terribly formal, but one of the things that I do want to bring up that has ultimately shifted the trajectory of my work in this path, and Kelly touched on it. She tapped into it a little bit from the conscious parenting side of things, which has been so beautiful. Human design is something that is very incredible to really understanding the true depths of our children. And I didn't have this knowledge when I first embarked upon conscious parenting back in 2014 is when I first heard conscious parenting. I'm really glad the way that I learned this, though, because conscious parenting really helps us to look inward and parent the child within us and understand what those unhealed wounds look like or what they feel like, and address them at a core level so that we are not projecting and expecting and doing a lot of the stuff that Kelly so beautifully shared in her presentation. And so doing this inner work is ongoing, lifelong. And so long as I believe we're breathing and we're in this form of life, we're always experiencing the trials and errors. And so for me, conscious parenting was the catalyst in how I even got on this path. And I have one child, she's 9 years old. And it's just funny because a lot of people, you know, when I share around the work that I do, they'll say, well, how many kids do you have? As if, you know, there's a requirement in order to do this work. And I often just say, there's one. And I'll say, and she's a big one. She's one big spirit, and she's enough for, you know, 5 kids in one. And I really say that with this deep gratitude, because I know that, like Kelly mentioned, you know, we asked our children to come into our path as much as they called us into their path. And so upon doing this work of conscious parenting and really getting in and understanding some of the deep things within my being that I moved into motherhood with, I mean, I came into this path of motherhood quite delusional, if I may just admit myself very openly. I was close to 40 years old, and I came from the corporate world and, you know, thought I had it all together and had my colored spreadsheets and my, you know, lists and checklists and everything like that. So of course I felt, well, if I have these lists and everything, this kid's just going to follow my flow. What a very lucky kid she is to have a mother like me to keep her life so organized. And so in looking back, I can see so clearly, even just the fact that she came into this life a whole month early and then a whole day before a scheduled C-section, like this was the true lesson. And she was giving me a pretty big wake up call in that moment. Like, lady, it's time that, you've got a lot of work to do, and I'm your one awakener that's going to get you there. So I did this work very aggressively. I devoured it. Shefali's kind of even made slight remarks in jest around the fact that she didn't write the book called The Super Conscious Parent, but the Conscious Parent, because I took it across the board to the other spectrum. So I had to kind of find my way back to center. And so I continually do this work, and it's a big part of the integration of my being. And I've gone deeper. Why? Because for me, there was something even understanding the depths of the child before me, outside of even just my own self. There was a longing, there was a seeking of understanding her at an energetic level. And so, of course, the universe was feeling into this. And 2 years ago, I was at my daughter's school, just doing my thing in the lobby, whatever. And some mom out of the blue just approached me, and some kind of, I think, energetic thing happened in that space. And she just said, have you heard of human design? And I was like, no, but there was something, just like when I heard conscious parenting in 2014, and it basically like took off, like a rocket ship learning that. Human design, it just like absorbed me. And all of a sudden I devoured it. Within hours, I was on the couch, researching, searching, doing everything. And so now I have integrated this into the work that I do in supporting families. And what I love about it, I'm going to do what I can to kind of high level this. And I'm going to invite you to go and explore it and feel into it and see if this is something that even resonates with you. But I will tell you, it has been a huge game changer in not only my personal life, the life of my family unit, my daughter in particular, and the lives that I get to work with every day on this path of awakening. So essentially, human design is an integration of our ancient wisdom systems and science. And so it's based on the calculations of our birth and our location and time. And what happens is it integrates a map, if you will. So I kind of reflected and contemplated on this recently, along with, we were told long ago, like, well, parenting doesn't come with a manual, or we don't have this kind of like rule book. And I'm here to tell you we do. Like, yay, in 2020, we can finally say, like, there's something, yes, we have, that we can, actually look at for our kids. And so, and ourselves particularly. So what happens is, when we plug in the simple facts of our birth information in this chart, it will give us an overview of our child, our children, our spouses, our partners, our coworkers, whomever it is you want to pull the chart for, their auric type, their energy. And something that we're missing, I believe, in the conversation of this awakening, in this path to getting into the highest part of our essence, is understanding how our energy really truly works. And when we really embrace and embody that everything is energy, all things are energy, and we are here in a form of the energy itself, expressing itself as a human being. And, some people have said, like, we're spiritual beings having human experience. And so I believe that completely. But what happens is, we're able to see into the mechanics, if you will. And I really kind of do this a lot with languaging, just because, I'm not here to ask anybody to attach to words and labels and things like that, but it's the only way I can use construct in these conversations. But it's really understanding the auric mechanics of each person that we're working with. And so there are 4 different types of energy types out there. There's manifestors, there's generators, there's projectors, and there's reflectors. And then there's a hybrid known as a manifesting generator. So they're a little bit of both. And this makes up the whole world. At any point in time, if you were to pull various charts, you would see that we're all different kinds of energies. And what happens is, we go in with these expectations that we're all the same, like, because we're human and we speak and we have this neocortex, we must all just be the same, act the same. And this is where we get tripped up. And to Kelly's beautiful points about like absorption and what our kids take in, they're imbibing the energy, they're digesting the energy fields around them. And so what happens is, when you see these charts, it's laid out so amazingly, and you'll see them in centers, like chakra centers, and every chakra center will speak to that energy field. And then there's different flavors of that that express how that energy field comes to life and how it's here to like move and navigate in the world collectively. So I'll give you an example. So this is something I would have loved to have known about. I'm just minding my time. So this is something I would have loved to have known in 2014 upon getting into conscious parenting. So my daughter, one of the big things for me was, right, like control. And I wanted control. And this is why I was so like this in everything I was doing with motherhood, and extremely anxious, extremely intense. And I still am at times. So I'm here to kind of like lighten anybody's perception that, at least I can speak for myself, but I'm sure the rest of the speakers would say, no matter how much work we're doing here, we're all still growing every single day, and we're all still evolving, and we're, you know, tripping up on ourselves. I mean, I often say I'm consciously unconscious many times, just because I'm so aware. Sometimes I'm like, yep, I'm aware that I'm totally unaware right now. So anyway, I share that because I had so much anxiety, especially the fact that my daughter came early and then a day early. I mean, this whole thing of motherhood just really threw me in for a breakthrough. And one of the things is, in her human design specifically, she's a generator and I'm a manifesting generator. I move at a lot faster speed than my child. I'm here to do a million things at once. It's how my energy needs to move. And she's definitely more, she has to be more grounded in the work she's doing and be masterful at it, so that she has just the energy to give her that concentration. And so a lot of times I would, you know, I'm very disruptive, or I come in there and I'm just like expecting this and pushing this. And a lot of times, you know, she would say things to me like, you're putting so much pressure on me. And of course, my ego took its own trip, and I would say like, come on, chop, chop, you know, enough's enough. I've given you this bandwidth, you know, I mean, you got to meet me halfway here. And in human design, when you look at these charts, and every one of these centers speak to the flow of the wiring of how we're here to like express the truth of our being, ourselves. My daughter's root energy, okay, is open, and my root energy is defined. So just that knowledge gave me so much awareness that she literally, just being in my presence, absorbs my pressure, just absorbs my adrenaline. And it can be very intense for her, because each one of these centers speak to our organs, and they speak to like the codes of our life, like that are the DNA within us. So this is not some man-made idea. Somebody didn't just, you know, oh, what do I have to do today? I'm just going to come up with this thing called human design. I invite you to go Google it, and you can watch some videos and you can see how it all came to be. Essentially, it is a blueprint. It is a blueprint with the imprinting of our respective genetic codes and our wiring and expressiveness of our individual genius, and how we're here to like navigate and move into this world and support each other along the way, and understand what is mine and what's not mine. And when you look at different experiences of your family's charts, you'll see anything that's kind of open or not colored. That's what they call in human design as a not self. It's meaning like, it's not how you're here to enact, or it's not how you don't have consistent energy. You're not here to like bring pressure into the world. That's not who you are designed to be. Where somebody else might have that, they have a different use of their energy that way. And there's a purpose, and there's a divine way that we're all wired so perfectly that there is no right or wrong. There is no good or bad. There isn't, oh, I've got this and you got that. Am I missing something? But because it's at the core so much about the DNA, if you even just kind of understand the DNA, like in the attraction, like when opposites attract, that works from a very reproductive level. Yeah, that's like people wanting to have reproductive, to make babies, right? The opposite has to attract. But in the evolution of our own being and the truth of ourselves, we're not here to go be anybody other than who we really are. And we're here to truly embody that into the fullest of our essence. And a lot of times we forget who we really are inside of us, because like Kelly made that point, the minute you come into this atmosphere, into this environment, You're completely conditioned now. You've got all this stuff pouring into your open cavities and energy fields, and it doesn't know what to do with it. It's like, I don't know what to do with this stuff. And so what happens is it amplifies it. And so something with my daughter's chart in general too is her solar plexus energy is wide open, and I have my own energy field and it's defined. So I'm an emotional being. I high and low, up and down, left and right. To know me is to know I'm emotional, and it's how I express myself. It's how I bring my passion into the world. It's how I sit with my feelings and express them and share them. It is a very natural part of my being. So if somebody says you're too emotional, which I've often been told, I remind people, well, 50% of the world is, so why don't you get to know the rest of them? Because don't outcast the one person that's emotional. Instead, look at that as like, wow, okay, you're emotional, but I don't maybe feel like I'm emotional, but I feel like when I'm with you, I'm emotional. And so what happens is people that have that open will amplify people like me that are emotional. And then they leave my energy and then they go, okay, yeah, that was a trip. I'm not usually that emotional. Like there was something I plugged into Sandra and now I'm done and I got my fix and I'm good to go. And so this is what's happened with our own daughter. My husband and I are both emotional beings by the virtue of our design. And our daughter is very open in that chakra field. And so what do you think comes from that? Now that I know what I know, she looks like the crazy one. She's the one throwing the tantrums. I'm not judging, I'm not projecting, I'm sharing the experiences. And this is what played on me my whole path. And so then there's this blaming and this unease, like she can't take it. It's overwhelming. She doesn't know what to do with it. And it's like, it looks psychotic. And then I'm over here going, okay, whatever, I'm off my wave. I'm good to go. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm done. I'm done with my emotion, but I'm still fine. And she's left with feeling skid-sick, in any moment. And so we've had to kind of look at this, and it doesn't mean there aren't other things at play. So I'm not trying to make all of this seem or appear as if it's one thing that explains life. I'm trying to enlighten and expand and expose everybody who's here in this space, because you're here for a reason, to hear whatever it is you're meant to hear and be impacted by whatever message is most resonant to you. There is no right or wrong way about any of it. It's really staying curious in the process of this path of awakening and learning to attune deeply into the child before you. I mean, do this work. You have to ground yourself in this space. Everything Kelly touched on, it's so paramount to becoming part of, this collective that we're all here to share out of humanity in this human form. But human design is so specialized, and what I love is it's so personal. It's so truth-telling to each person. It gives you insight to how you make decisions. How are you here to show up? How are you here to make decisions? It teaches us to get out of this space of the mind, bye-bye, and get back into the intelligence of the body and trust the innate wiring that we came here with, and learn how to feel into the natural flow of our own body, because it is an integration of soul and the physical, and it's here for so many purposes, and there's so many dimensions. It's a rabbit hole. You can get lost in it. I've been doing it for a couple years. Every second I'm learning something new, and my whole way of learning it is to share it and teach it and do all that stuff. So I'm constantly learning and unfolding. And I'm here to tell you, even with this insight, I still screw up every day. I know my kid needs to be responded a certain way. I know that she's not the decision maker, that she has to sit with her feelings. She's a guttural authority. That's an inner authority that you learn in human design. So there are ways to kind of guide our kids into what Kelly was talking about earlier about we want them to know how to trust themselves. And so if we can give them the keys, right, to their own vehicle, to understand the way the manual of their vehicle works, we're not all going to be on this crash course thing called life, road raging and, excuse me, heading off cliffs. We're going to mind our lane, and we're going to understand the boundaries, there you go, throat chakra closing itself on me. It's kind of my time. I guess it's telling me I'm up. So there's just so many jewels. And I just really want to empower you guys to lean into this insight, you know, feel into it, discover it, experiment with it. It's not any belief system. It's really a place to practice and rediscover and be liberated by what you already know about yourself. Because when I do readings with people, they're like, oh my gosh, like that's so freeing. That's like what I've always known. Like, thank you for sharing that. And that's how I felt. It gave me so much freedom. This is why I can show up in a forum like this with 0 notes, because I've trusted into the instincts of the way I'm wired and however I'm meant to bring this message forward. The old Sandra would have been so about, I have to have everything so perfect. And I would have screwed the whole conversation up because I would have been too much up here. And so I'm trusting into the body of my being. And so a little acronym, because I'm all about acronyms and it totally explains my human design, is I put the word peace together. And I was like muddling with this. I dreamt about this last night and I went through 17 variations. And just this morning I came up with a brand new one. So obviously none of those from my dreams wanted to come to realize. But here's a quick thing. It's PEACE. And so I look at it as power of, put that in brackets, power of energy and consciousness embodied. And that's how I feel human design is it's the power of energy, which is the human design, and consciousness, which is the conscious parenting, embodied. And when you have both of these together, it is so powerful. So thank you so much. Blessings to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you so much. Wow, a lot of insights there, a lot of wisdom, and some great things to go and find more info on. Is a question, so we're open for questions now, guys, from Sandra and Kelly. If anyone wants to know anything further, there's one for you. There's Sandra.
Sure. Hi, Jennifer. Thanks for your message. So you said, how does human design fit with the mums? I love that energy being influenced by past experiences that make her shout at her child. Correct. Okay. Do you need to do the inner work first before you use human design? Absolutely not. Is the inner work inner child? So these are excellent questions. So it's really, it's its own exploration. So first of all, knowing how your vehicle even is, like understanding what's under that hood, you know, this is your vehicle. Get to become really intimate to understand how does your energy type even work? And so in human design, there's a thing called strategy and authority. So we all have our own authority, and this is how we make decisions, because we've been conditioned that it's in the mind, but we all have so some of us have emotional authority. We have to sit and be with this. And there's a process, and we have to really honor that and not judge it. Some people are sacral authorities, which is their gut, and it's like the moment of their truth is in the moment. Some people are splenetic authorities, and it's very like instinctual. It's like primal. Some people are projected authorities, where they have to speak to hear their truth. So you first learn your flow, right? You got to learn how are you even here to understand. And it does work beautifully in inner work, because as you start to see, oh, I can see where I've been open, and this is probably where I'm putting a lot of that projection onto my child, it becomes more clear. Just like I told you with the root energy and the solar plexus energy, it just made sense. And it's not like, that's it, magic fix. Oh, I'll never be upset again at my kid, or she'll never feel my emotions. It's like anything in time, you build a muscle and you just become more conscious and more aware. And so to address it around inner child therapy. So therapy is not a word I'm familiar with. You know, I like the word guide and usher and things like that, because I think therapy sometimes focuses too much in the past, in the wounds, and all of it has its own relevant space. But essentially, you pull your chart, you pull your kid's chart, and really the best thing is to get a reading done and allow somebody to kind of like bring it down. And one of my gifts that I really have found just in human design, and it explains how I've learned conscious parenting and everything, is that I'm all about practicality. I want to know how to take the complex and bring it into simplicity. This is why I do acronyms, and I write and do all these kinds of things, because I have to it has to integrate. And then, you know, this is where I've tripped up over sometimes conscious parenting. Like, I get that, but you don't understand my kid. And I would get really frustrated sometimes, like, you know, but you don't know her. Like, you're talking this, but she's this. And so it really helps me to see that more intimately. But I think it's pull the chart. You could go to mybodygraph.com. It's a free service. Plug in the information. Be careful of how they're asking the times, because a lot of these are in different countries. And you'll see like a profile type, you'll see the aura type, and then feel into it, you know, however you want to explore it. There's so many different ways. There's books you can get, there's things on Google, there's readers out there. It will be magical. I promise you, it will bring you so much relief, and it will help you learn how to guide your child according to their aura. And then together you will find how to orchestrate that as a unit. It'll be beautiful to experiment with. And don't be so hard on yourself, Jennifer, either. I'm telling you this from experience. I still trip up daily, so it's all good. Yeah. Thank you for your question, of course.
Okay. Sandra, if you like, you can share the link in the chat for
Sure.
Jennifer.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so we have our next. Sorry, was I on mute? Okay. We have our next speaker, Nicole. I've lost your video, Nicole. Oh, there you are. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
The floor
Hi,
is yours.
everyone. I'm Nicole Talf, and I'm really excited to be here. I wanted to jump in on the conversation that Kelly and Sandra started, because so beautifully they kind of outlined for us how sometimes life and the people that we journey through life with seem to get to be in the driver's seat of our emotions. They seem to get to decide the level of stress, anxiety, anger, worry, frustration that we get to experience. And obviously, by extension, they also get to decide the level of joy and appreciation and bliss that we get to experience. So today what I wanted to do was to share a tool that I've spent the last few years developing that was really instrumental in helping me be able to manage my own emotions and take back my power. And really, the tool is called an emotional ladder. And if you can just visualize a normal wooden ladder, and we'll kind of walk through what you get. So at the bottom of the ladder, you would find low level or low energy emotions. So this is where you would have worry, you would have stress, anxiety, anger, and frustration. And at the top of the ladder is where you'll have peak state experiences. So experiences like great appreciation and joy and bliss and gratitude and excitement for life. And we've all had peak state experiences. If you could think to the time where you felt like you were turned on, tapped in, where your intuition was on point, your creativity was just heightened, and you just felt like you were in flow. And some people call this being in the flow or being in the zone. I call this being in your peak state, because for me, this is when you're truly connected to all of who you are, from a spiritual and an energetic level. And really, there's an equation that goes along with being in the peak state that we need to understand. The less time you spend in peak state, the less access you have to joy and to creativity and to bliss. But really, the good news is that the converse is also true. So the more time you spend in peak state, this is where you have greater fulfillment. This is where a lot of leaders, like powerful leaders, spend most of their time, because this is where your communication is maximized. This is where you have the opportunity to impact and inspire behavior in others when you're in your own peak state. So really, I think emotional mastery is about understanding how do we manage our emotions in a way that we could spend more of our time in peak state. And to do that, I first say to my clients, there's some foundational work that you need to do. The first is to understand two really important things about emotions. And the first is your emotions are triggered by your thoughts and not external events. And I know every mom in here will go, you don't know my child. When my child starts to behave in this particular way or in that particular way, I go nuts. And they know I would go nuts, and they know exactly where my buttons are, and they push it. So the way I'm feeling is as a result of them pushing my buttons. But the reality is And you will know this from your own experience. The reason two people could stand and experience the same event and walk away with two different emotional experiences is because your emotions are triggered by the thoughts you have about that event, the meanings that you make up. So the meaning about the event, the people, and their perceptions about you, which is most important. So it's really, I think, foundational to understand about your emotions that they're all internally driven. The second thing about emotions that you've got to really understand in order to get to mastery is that the emotions that you don't lean into and feel fully so you could process, you push down and you store. And those emotions form the basis of your triggers. And triggers for me are like a call to action. They're really your body saying, hang on, you've still got me in here and it's time to pay attention to me and let me go. And so when you have those experiences where your kids push your buttons, really what they're doing is shining a light on some emotion that you stored most of the times all the way back from your childhood that your body's still asking you to let go of. So those are the two sort of foundational things that we need to understand before we get into mastery. When I teach my clients about mastery, I try to give them an analogy of the way the armed forces would approach a minefield, because there's two approaches to emotional mastery. So in times of peace and in times of war, the armed forces will do completely different things. So let's take those in turn. So in times of peace, the armed forces will get down, they put on protective gear, they will get those metal detectors out, and slowly and carefully, they will go across that minefield, painstakingly, inch by inch, trying to find a grenade that they could deactivate. Once they find it, they carefully unearth it, they deactivate it, and then they go back over that area. And what I've learned from my own emotional mastery journey is that you get to do the same thing with your own emotions if you're courageous enough. And I'll give you an example. I am definitely a recovering yeller. I am a parent coach. I've spent 10 years studying parenting at a very deep level in terms of research. But yet, every day, my kids seem to be able to find a way to help me to grow and learn more about myself. So I'm definitely in the recovering yelling space. But one day when I realized, I said to myself, listen, these are the two people, I have two boys, that you absolutely love more than everybody else in the world. Why are you yelling? And I sat down with my journal and I said, it's time for me to take my coaching and I have to turn it inward. So I asked myself the questions that I would ask most of my clients as we go through a coaching journey. So the first thing was, why are you yelling? That's the first question. It seemed to be easy and obvious. I'm yelling because my kids don't listen. I didn't yell the first time, second, third, or fifth time. But by the time I got to the 10th time asking the same thing, I was yelling like a crazy person. So I'm yelling because my kids don't listen. And then I said, okay, if your kids are not listening or your kids are ignoring you, that's a feeling. But what's the emotion behind that? And I sat with it some more. And then I could feel a feeling of helplessness start to come up for me in the pit of my stomach. And so I wrote that down and I leaned into that feeling. And then I asked myself, once I got really clear on what that feeling of helplessness felt like, when was the very first time you felt like that? And instantly I got a picture. 4-year-old version of myself standing in the kitchen, desperately trying to get my mother's attention. And I'm not sure, I can't remember what I wanted to say, but I'm sure about the feeling that whatever I wanted to say in that moment was the most important thing to be said. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get my mom's attention. So at 4, I did what all kids do. I took a prefrontal cortex that was not yet developed. I took the experience that you could have up to a 4-year-old. So let's just say cognitive ability for 2 years. And I created meaning. And the meaning I created was that what I had to say wasn't very important. And furthermore, I wasn't very important. At least I was not as important as the things that needed to be done. And that when I needed to get the attention of the people I loved the most, I would struggle to get it. And as I leaned in doing that journaling exercise to the feelings that that 4-year-old girl had, which were painful experiences to recognize within myself as an adult, I was able to share an adult perspective. Because you see, from an adult perspective, that entire picture looked very different. From an adult perspective, I saw a mom who worked 12 to 16-hour days, trying to give her kids a better life. a mom who was desperate to make sure her kids had a better education, they lived in a different neighborhood, and they had access to opportunities that she didn't have. A mom who truly loved her kids more than anything else. And when I leaned into that feeling of being really loved, rather than the feeling of being ignored by my own parents, I was able to look at my kids differently. So now instead of looking at them and seeing that they were ignoring me, what I saw was two boys that were really engrossed and focused on what they were doing, right? And it's the type of focus that from a leadership perspective, I know is where great creativity comes from. So it really isn't the type of focus that we should want to squash at parents. But I think the journaling exercise to find out what was at the root of my trigger gave me an opportunity to have a different conversation with my kids. So rather than yelling, I sat down and created a team-like atmosphere. And I was able to share very openly with my kids what it felt like for me when I felt ignored, making sure I took full responsibility for that feeling. And my sons, being the clever little kids they are, were quick to jump in with solutions. My younger son said, I know exactly what to do. Instead of calling us across the room, why don't you come over and touch me on the shoulder? Because that way I can give you my full attention. And then my older boy said, how about instead of call us just when you need us, you call us maybe 5 or 10 minutes before. So that way when you're ready, we would have been preparing to stop and give you our attention. And I think the important thing to take away from this story is that when you do what I call emotional hygiene, see, we all get really focused on taking care of the external body. But when you get clear on the emotional hygiene, the impact of the emotional hygiene, it gives you the freedom to have a different relationship, a freedom to create a different dynamic in your family. And I was able, from that point onwards, to create a dynamic that was based on a team-like atmosphere, where my kids knew that I respected them and the solutions that they could come with to the problems that we were facing every day. And the level of respect they felt for me, they were able to give back to me. And so we were able to work together. And that's the first thing. So for me, the first takeaway I'd like you to get is that emotional hygiene should be a daily practice in the same way you take care of your external body. So that's times of peace, right? But in times of conflict, what does the armed forces do? So in times of conflict, the armed forces will say, okay, what is the quickest path out of this minefield? There's no time to go nicely searching around for grenades. So what's the quickest path I can make out of the minefield? And for me, that's where the emotional ladder comes in. And I'll give you an example. Back when my kids were very little, so I think they were both toddlers. My boys are 20 months apart. I don't know what I was thinking, but it was an interesting time in our life, and they were both still toddlers. And life circumstances played out in a way where both myself and their dad found ourselves unemployed. And so we moved to a cheaper part of the country to try to cut costs, but it took me a full year before I can get a job. And in that year, I had to make some really tough decisions. So the decision that I made was that I was not going to pay any bills so that I can keep food on the table, because we had to pay rent in advance. So I knew at least we had a roof over our head, but I wouldn't pay any bills. And at the end of the year, when I got a job, the sense of appreciation and excitement, I can still feel it, because it just felt like, the nightmare is over. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. And that sense of gratitude went with me even on the cold days where, as the Caribbean girl living in England, I would usually moan about how cold and how dreary the weather was. I was still blissfully happy. I was so appreciative for the new job. And I picked my kids up from childcare after work, came home, opened the door, flipped the light switch on, and nothing happened. And instantly I got a feeling of dread in my stomach. I ran to the other end of the room, flipped the light switch, nothing. Ran into the kitchen where most of the broilers are kept in the UK, opened the broiler cupboard, looked in, no light. And I knew instantly what it meant. And my self-talk so quickly got steeped in shame. And this is the first lesson of the emotional ladder. You can be blissful and happy and appreciative, and in an instant, fall to the bottom of your ladder. Just like you can from a physical ladder. You can fall from the top to the bottom in one go. And literally in seconds, I was steeped in the feelings of guilt and shame. My self-talk was awful. I said to myself, how could you do this? Like, look how you have a first degree in economics, a master's degree in marketing, and you can't figure out how to keep the lights on. And it went on, and I said to myself, I said, look at what you're going to do to your kids that are still blissful in their abundance mindset. You're going to change their mindset tonight and give them a mindset of lack and poverty, because you can figure out how to do a simple thing like keep the lights on. And that guilt and that shame bubbled within me. And within a few seconds, I found myself in blame. So I was in my mind pointing fingers. If this person had done what they were supposed to do, and if that person had done X, Y, and Z, I wouldn't be here. And this is the second rule of the ladder. You see, because when I was growing up, I was taught that there were some emotions that you just shouldn't feel because they're useless. So in our home, things like anger, things like rage, things like jealousy, those were just emotions you weren't allowed to feel as a child. In my home, the grown-ups were allowed to be angry, and kids were allowed to be silent when they were angry. Go into your room if you're angry. You don't dare display anger. And you definitely don't display blame. So blame was an emotion that I grew up thinking you shouldn't feel. But on that ladder, blame has sweet relief from the feelings of shame and guilt. Sweet relief. And so that was where I learned that you really needed to have a great appreciation for your full range of emotions, because every emotion that you have sits on that ladder, and like a physical ladder, every emotion supports you on your climb from the bottom of the ladder all the way back to your peak state. So you want to get comfortable with your full range of emotions. My blame soon bubbled into anger, and I was really angry. I thought, what kind of company in the middle of winter would turn the lights off when they know you have 2 kids in the house? And I got angry, and then my anger turned to this deep sense of frustration and tiredness. I thought, you know what? I'm really tired of this financial experience, and I just want it to come to an end. I'm tired of shaking every handbag, of looking through every pocket, every trouser, every jacket, trying to find pennies just to figure out how to keep food on the table. And then I thought to myself, you know what? There is a light at the end of the tunnel. You have a new job. You have a solid plan for how to get out of debt. And that sense of appreciation, I looked down at my kids and I thought, the reality is everything that matters is still okay. You mightn't have the lights on, but you have a roof over your head. You have food to give the kids are safe and they're happy. And for the first time in a few seconds since I walked in the house and realized that we had no lights, I had access to a different choice. Because from that space of appreciation, I was able to see that tonight could be an experience for my kids that will be a fun night, rather than an experience that would define their lives forever. So I looked down at my kids and I said, here's what, the lights are off, but we're going to have some fun. We're going to build a tent on mom's bed. We're going to have a picnic, and we're going to tell stories and funny jokes all night long. And that's exactly what we did. I made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches as quickly as I could. I took all the duvets we had so that we'd be warm. I hung a sheet over to just keep through to my tent team. And we told toddler stories and toddler jokes right up until bedtime. My kids are 11 and 13 now. And for my boys, it's still one of the most fun memories they've had of their toddler ages, because for them, they didn't get to experience the stress. They just got to experience the joy. And I think the important lesson to take away from the ladder is that you get to have the opportunity to create solutions from any space. But the solutions you create when you're steeped in the emotions of lack, of anger, of stress, of worry, they are completely different solutions to the solutions you can create when you're flooded with the emotions of gratitude and appreciation and joy and bliss. So your first job and your first commitment has to be to get yourself to peak state. And then from that state, you choose how you want to create a solution. I've had the opportunity to test the ladder on some of the most challenging experiences in life. And there were times when I felt like the ladder must have had limitations, and it's just so far you can go with the ladder. And I'll share one experience with you. And I struggled tonight, I'll be very honest, if this was a story that I should share. But I felt that to be truly authentic and to show you the power of emotional mastery by doing those two things, emotional hygiene and learning to use your ladder to take you to peak state. It was important for me to share. When I was growing up, I grew very closely with two cousins. We were all a year apart, and we were called the Three Musketeers because we did everything together, including plan our future. So the plan was that we were all going to have kids around the same age, and we were all going to live on the same street so that all our kids could roam and grow together and they'd be as connected. And life is very funny. We all actually had kids around the same time. They're all a year apart, just like we were. But instead of living on the same street, we all live in 3 different countries. So not quite the experience we had hoped for. But when the kids get together, anybody looking at them would be forgiven for thinking that they grew up on the same street, because they had this natural bond that just allowed them to flow with each other and bond and connect in a real beautiful way that really filled my heart with joy. Last October, the youngest of the 3 Musketeers and her only child, she took her only child for her last childhood vaccine. And what should have been an ordinary day for my family turned into a day that I think we would regret for the rest of our lives. Because 17 days after having her vaccine, Katie died. Sorry. It plunged my family into a sea of never-ending questions with very few answers for comfort. And it was weeks before I thought I could even lift my head to figure out what's the next step on the ladder. Weeks. But there's a few things I know for sure. If I am to be committed to supporting my cousin as she goes through this journey that no parent should be on, the support I can give at the bottom of my ladder is very different to the support I can give at the top of my ladder. And because of the way Katie died and the questions that surround her death, it required a lot of research. And the level of support I could give as we try to find answers is very different at the bottom of my ladder to the top of my ladder. I'm at least 100 times more effective at the top of my ladder as I search for answers and search for doctors and researchers across the world to find out what really happened than I am when I'm steeped in my grief. It's only been a few months, so I still make sacred space for my grief. Every day, I make space, I lean in, I let it pour out, but I don't stay there all day long because I know that my commitment to support my cousin has to first begin with my commitment to myself and my commitment to climb my ladder. When we were just in the grips of this life challenge, I had a conversation with my mom and I said, I'm not sure how we're supposed to move on from this experience, what we're supposed to take away from it. And my mom said to me, she said, life is like a game of cricket. And I don't know where in the world, if you understand the game of cricket, but in the game of cricket, you've got, very similar to baseball, you've got a batsman and you've got a bowler. And when that batsman steps up to the plate to bat and he looks down at the bowler, he doesn't get to tell the bowler what kind of ball he should send. What he gets to do is to make sure that no matter what that bowler bowls, he's prepared to bat. And it's my hope and my prayer that everyone can learn to do 2 things. Learn to lean in and create a practice of emotional hygiene every day so that you're more available to your peak state. And recognize how you can use your own tool of your range of emotions as you're in the heat of life battles to be able to move from any sort of deep, dark, low energy emotion all the way back to your bliss and your joy and your appreciation for life. So that you can step out every day knowing not that you will be able to survive whatever life throws at you, but that you'd be confident that you can thrive no matter what life throws your way. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you so much for sharing. Very, very valuable information and your personal experience. Thank you so much for getting so vulnerable with us. It means a lot. Thank you. Okay, let me get hold of Shannon now. Shannon. Hold on for me, Nicole. I'm going to unmute you now.
Sure.
Sorry, mute you. Hey, Shannon.
Hi, hello everybody.
This is Shannon Rose, and she just joined us 15 minutes ago. Shannon, welcome. A lot has been shared, and we're excited to hear your presentation. Shannon's going to be talking about how to stop using your kid as an excuse to not be living your dreams. Okay, go ahead.
Hi everybody, my name's Shannon Rose. You guys can all probably hear I'm an Aussie. And I actually live in the Italian Alps and we're in the middle of a snowstorm. So please someone let me know if the Wi-Fi connection drops because it is a little choppy and I really do apologize for that. So I'm really excited to be here and I was really honored to be asked by Alexia to present to you all. So I'm going to share a little bit about my story with you, and in the hope that it is really going to back up the reasoning as to why I feel the way I do about mums who tend to make a lot of excuses in terms of not following through on the things that they really desire for themselves. So it's so funny that I'm doing this, and my mum is actually here from Australia right now. My husband's in America. And one of the really big things that came to light for me was watching my mum give up on everything. It's breaking up. I wondered if it was. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Shannon.
I apologize. I'm gonna do my best. We're in the middle of a snowstorm. I'll just keep going. All right. So my mum, she gave up on everything because she had 2 children. So I'm one of 2. I have a sister as well, and my mum stopped living. She stopped living. She put her entire life on hold, and at the end of, yeah, absolutely, that might be super helpful. So at the end of, you know, our time in the nurturing in the nest, she was really lost. And it's really interesting because she is here now, and I found coaching. I'm really new to the coaching industry. I'm really new to the coaching world. I found coaching about 3.5 years ago. So I'm very, very new. And the reason that I found it was because I was moving through postnatal depression for the second time with my son, Harry. And it was an extreme bout that I had experienced elements of it with my first child, Millie, who's now 6. And coaching literally saved my life. It literally saved my life. And one of the big elements inside of that was self-love. I found myself through myself. I found myself through seeing who I really was. And I found myself through honoring and connecting with what I really wanted. I'm hoping you guys can hear me. Through connecting to what it was that I really needed for my life and for me outside of my children. So it's really interesting. You know, my topic is about like really bringing you to the forefront in your family's life. Okay, I'm going to turn my video off. All right. Can everybody hear me? Thank you. No worries. All right. So my intention, my mum and the family, when we play up, and the reason that I know this to be true is because, oh goodness, can everyone hear me?
And then it does break up quite a bit, but you're breaking up quite a lot. I think we've lost you again. Maybe if you move to another place in your room, closer to your router or something. Yeah, she could do that, Sandra. Shannon, are you there? She can't hear us. Okay. Shannon? Okay, she's really breaking up a lot. I'm going to send her a message and ask her if she can, yeah, I'll ask if she can try from her mobile phone. Okay, let's just give her a moment. Thanks, Sandra. Okay, I think she's even logged off. Yeah, she's logged off. Let's give her a moment to come through again. Does anybody have any questions for Nicole while we're waiting for Shannon? Anybody have any questions about the emotional intelligence and mastering emotional intelligence? Nothing? Okay. So then, she's coming back on, I think. No problem. She's going to try and join again. Thank you everyone for your patience. She is in the middle of the Italian Alps and like she said, there's a snowstorm. I'm thinking of maybe giving the floor to the next speaker and Shannon can hop on when she gets the connection back again. Okay, so our next speaker is, I think it's Amanda. Yes, Amanda. There you are. Hi, Amanda. Oh, can you hear us? Yeah.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me loud and clear?
You're quite low. Your volume's quite low.
Okay. All right. I'm going to speak loudly, so hopefully everyone can hear. I have a little bit of a cold, so my voice is a little nasally.
Okay.
But just let me know if my voice starts to tone down and I get quiet. Just let me know, a little reminder, and I will speak up.
Okay. Just share with us what you'll be talking about, and then you get to go.
Yes. You're going to share, or you want me to share?
I can share. I can share. So Amanda's going to be sharing with us awakening to love and how mindful self-compassion can build connection and resilience. Okay?
Yes. That's it. Yes. All right, everybody. So thank you so much. I'm feeling so fortunate and so grateful to be part of this collective motherhood. All of us coming from different parts of the world. It's pretty amazing for all of us to connect. And I'm really excited to share today about mindful self-compassion. So I'll tell you a little bit about my background. I'm in the United States, in Connecticut, and I have 2 children. So my son is 12, he just turned 12, and my daughter is 10. And I have been on sort of the same journey as Sandra and Kelly had talked about with Dr. Shefali, the conscious parenting journey for the past 6-7 years now. And it's really been through that work that I've, done a lot of personal work and evolving on my own. And my training has been in mindfulness. So I know that mindfulness is getting a lot of press nowadays all throughout the world. And I was trained to teach the 8-week mindfulness-based stress reduction course. So that's a worldwide program that maybe some of you are familiar with. It's John Kabat-Zinn's program. And I've been teaching that for the past several years. And I'll go into a little bit about mindfulness. And the other program that I'm trained in is mindful self-compassion. And so that's another course that I offer. And the curriculum is based on, I want to give credit to Dr. Kristen Neff and Dr. Chris Germer, who are from the US, and they developed this 8-week mindful self-compassion course, which has been so transformative to me, and it has such an important role in the parenting journey. And so today I really wanted to bring that piece to our talk, this mindful self-compassion piece. And I want to start at the top with a quote that I love, and maybe some of you are familiar with it. It's a quote by the poet Rumi. The quote is, "Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it." So one of the biggest barriers that we have built against love is ourselves, right? We can be the biggest barrier for ourselves, the way that we criticize ourselves and judge ourselves. And parenting is fertile ground for us to criticize ourselves. Like, I know this firsthand, and I am a recovering perfectionist. And just as Sandra said that she was like, you know, she's so type A and everything is planned out. And it's me to a T. And that does not work for parenting, right? Because our kids have their own agenda. And how beautiful it is, because it can help us release control and help us release the chains that bind us and really allow us to enter into a heart space. But it can be hard. It can be really hard to get to that place. And so my hope today is to talk about how we can start warming up to ourselves, how we can start befriending ourselves when it comes to parenting, because parenting is hard, right? We're having this seminar because there's struggles. We all struggle when it comes to parenting. And some of us, you know, are not as open with that, right? We look at how others portray themselves on social media, or it seems like, you know, they've got their lives together and we're like, what the heck is wrong with me, right? Why can't I seem to, you know, get my child to listen or whatever, right? So I'm here to talk about how we can start really having compassion for ourselves and to build that inner friendship that does not come that easy. Some people, perhaps it may, but others, it just doesn't, it feels foreign, it feels awkward. But it is within all of us. We all have that ability to build a strong connection within ourselves and to extend compassion for the challenges and the struggles that we go through as mothers. So I want to start by saying, there's this beautiful exercise that when I teach the Mindful Self-Compassion course, this exercise of how do you treat a friend? So this beautifully highlights, right? This beautifully highlights our relationship with ourselves and with others. So I want you to take for an example, I want you to think of a friend, a mom perhaps, that has been struggling, right? Somebody maybe that you know well, or maybe an acquaintance, something that somebody's struggling with, right? So, or just think of hypothetically that you have a friend, a good friend that comes to you and says, listen, this is what happened, right? So my son failed his math class, or my daughter is having really bad social anxiety at school. She doesn't want to go to school. Right? So these are just some scenarios, and maybe you can think of something there. I'm sure we all have a million things that we can think of that a friend has come to us and confided in us and shared a challenge. I want you to think about, in that moment, how you show up for your friend. how do you show up for somebody that comes to you that may say, listen, right, Nicole, my friend or my daughter has stomach aches every day before school and cries and doesn't want to go to school. How do we show up for a friend? And since this isn't interactive, I'll give some examples, right? Some examples from myself. If a friend comes to me and is struggling with a parenting issue, first of all, the first thing I do is just give space to listen, right? I listen to them. I, may validate their feelings. I can certainly, be non-judgmental. Just allow space to listen to what is going on. And maybe perhaps I take a gentler tone, right? I may have a gentler space with them and just really trying to empathize and be gentle. Or perhaps also we may sort of allow to put things into perspective, right? I think that's something that we can offer our friends, like a little bit of perspective in this situation. So really just highlighting how we are with a friend and how we show up. Now I want you to take a situation, either a current or a past situation, where you have struggled with a parenting challenge, something that's come up for you, right? We probably don't have to search very far. Something that's come up for us. And I want you to try to remember, or if it's clear and happening now, just bring awareness to how you treat yourself when something comes up, right? When your child perhaps failed a class, right? Maybe in that situation, we might automatically start being, blameful of ourselves. It's our fault. It's my fault. I didn't support my son. Or, we can be very critical of ourselves, very judgmental. The tone that we take, that inner tone that we take with ourselves, can be harsh, right? We would never say what we say to ourselves to our friend, right? She would no longer be our friend if we talked that way. Right? We also have the tendency, or at least I have the tendency, that when something, goes awry with my child, that it's like the worst situation ever, that this is like, he failed a class. Well, now, he's not going to get into the school that he wants, and then he's not going to get a job. And then, right, we go to like the worst case scenario, which is certainly not what we say to our friends, right? So we can make something magnified 1,000. So I bring this up just to highlight that a lot of times our worst enemy can be ourselves, the way that we talk to ourselves, the way that we judge. As if parenting isn't challenging enough, right? Then we add this extra layer of expectation onto ourselves, and this extra layer of criticism and judgment. And so with my training and my background, mindfulness, right? Mindfulness is really about training our attention to be in the present moment, right? To be aware of our present moment experience. And the presenters that have come before, right, especially Nicole, with talking about having that, like knowing our inner landscape and being well-versed in our emotions, right? That's mindfulness. It's understanding what our present moment is comprised of. It's comprised of, our physical body and our physical reactions, our mental diet, our thoughts that are going through our minds, our emotions that are present. So I, with my mindfulness practice, became very well aware of my present moment experience, became very self-aware. But I was very aware of how critical I was, right? So that is one thing. When I came into the present moment and understood all that was at play, it was like, whoa, there's this really, really tough inner critic that's inside, this person, this voice that's constantly commenting on my parent, how I parent, and I should have done this, and, you're not good at that, or your child's going to screw up, or, all these ways, right? And maybe I'm exaggerating it, and maybe it sounds very harsh for some, and maybe it doesn't sound harsh at all for others, and maybe you really identify with that. But through that mindfulness journey and being aware and then recognizing this critical voice, it was like, oh my God, what do I do with that? Right? Now, what do I do with that voice? And so that's where the mindful self-compassion comes in. Right? And we're not alone. I want to just say it's a study that was done in the US, but 78% of people are kinder to someone else than they are to themselves. Right? So it's not just a generalization to say that most people find it much easier to be kinder to someone else than to themselves. But I know firsthand that we all have the ability to cultivate and to cultivate a friendship, an inner friendship with ourselves. It is from that compassion and that inner friendship with ourselves that we then are able to meet our child where they are, from a place of deep connection and deep compassion. It starts with ourselves. Right? So I'm going to go into a sort of a exercise on the spot that we can do, because as parents, we don't have a ton of time. We don't have, a ton of time to sit and meditate or to whatever. I mean, I personally have a daily meditation practice, but I know that's a barrier for people, is to, carve out time every day. So mindful self-compassion can happen on the spot. So I'm going to tell you exactly one way that we can use it. So in the moment, say you have a challenge, right? Say you're in the moment with your child and there's a challenging event that happens, right? Say he or she is throwing a tantrum or, refusing to do something. In that moment, we bring mindfulness. So we bring present moment awareness that this is a moment of challenge, right? So there's sort of three steps to this mindful self-compassion that I'm talking about. Number one, the first step is mindfulness. We have to be aware that that there's a challenge taking place, right? So say we're in the heat of the moment with our child and they're tantruming. In that moment, number one, boom, I'm aware. I'm aware in this moment that this is difficult, right? This is difficult for me in this moment. There's a challenge, right? That's the mindfulness piece. And even in that moment, we bring ourselves into the moment, because a lot of times when our child is when there's difficulty with the child, we go off in reactivity. Reactivity is not present moment, right? Reactivity, we're out of the present moment. So when we recognize there's a challenge and we turn inward to that moment, we're staying mindful, we're staying in the present moment. So we recognize this is a moment of challenge, right? This is difficult. And we may turn our focus inward and just notice what's here, oh, wow, there's anger here. Right? And my chest is so tight, or I'm holding my breath, right? That's noticing physically how our body is, and then naming the emotion that's present. And we can even, just take a quick flip and just look at the script that's going on in our minds, right? A lot of times it's like, oh, you did it again, right? Why do you always flip out, right? Whatever the script is that we're talking. We can start to bring awareness, and mindfulness helps us sort of contain, right? We start building a self-awareness of what this moment even comprises, what is even here, right? And then the next step, right? The next step, after we recognize that there's a moment of struggle, there's a moment of challenge, there's a moment of suffering, the next step is this piece of common humanity, right? This piece of recognizing that I'm not alone. I think a lot of times in parenting, we feel isolated. We feel like this is only happening to me. My kid is only like this, or I can't control my emotions, right? And so recognizing, boom, right? I'm not alone in my suffering. I'm not alone in my challenge. I'm actually connected in my challenge, right? That other people feel this way too, and it's okay. right? So that's the bringing in this sort of connected piece where all of us, right, we can even picture all the moms on this call, all of us connecting, that we all know what it feels like to feel out of our element, to feel angry, to feel out of control, to, right? And we can say, I'm not alone in this suffering. And then the third step is the kindness piece, right? Is where we offer ourselves kindness, whether we feel it or not, because sometimes we just don't feel it. And sometimes it may feel really foreign, but I'm telling you, it's something that we develop over time. So we just have the willingness to, can I be kind to myself in this moment, right? Can I be patient with myself in this moment, right? Taking the action piece of giving kindness toward ourselves helps open our heart. It helps develop compassion. It helps us cut through all of the barriers that are in the way to really being able to connect to ourselves and then connect to our child. So this can sound like, whoa, this is a lot that's happening. How do you do this in the moment? But it's practice. It takes practice and a willingness. It takes an intention and a willingness to be kind to ourselves. And when we recognize that we're suffering, we recognize we're not alone, that everybody else suffers. We all go through these challenges. And can I be kind to myself in this moment? Because not because I want to feel better, because I feel bad. That's why, right? Can I be kind to myself because it hurts? That's period, end, right? And maybe it looks different. We need different things at different times, right? Maybe, can I just be patient? Or, what would I need in this moment when I'm offering kindness? Maybe I need to just give myself a gentle touch. Maybe I need to just, take a few breaths. And that's what kindness looks like to me in this moment. So it's a practice. It adds no time because you're already in the moment with your child. You're just noticing in that moment. And later on, right, there's certainly time for deconstructing and going into, our triggers and our fears. Yes, there certainly is 100% a place for that after, but in the moment, how we can break that cycle of reactivity, that cycle of shame, blame, guilt, is to cut through it, to recognize, here I am, we all suffer, and can I be kind in this moment to myself? And when we can when we can even sense an inkling of compassion for ourselves, we can then extend it to our children. So that is really, I still have a couple more minutes, but I just want to highlight a little bit ways where we can bring compassion to ourselves, like the different barriers that we have. Right? Ways that as a mom, we may add to our challenges, as if our children and the situations and society isn't challenging enough, the ways that we add. I already talked, number one, about that inner critic, right? That critical voice. When that comes up, that's a moment of suffering, right? So can I be kind to myself with this inner critic, right? That's one. Another layer, another barrier that causes more suffering is comparison, right? We compare ourselves to others and think, others have it. They get an A+ in parenting, and I'm, failing over here, right? So that's another way. Another way we set ourselves up too is that we don't give ourselves any room for failure. I love the quote by Pema Chodron, which is fail again, fail better. So when we recognize that we're gonna fail, right? We don't have to place these high expectations on ourselves. We're not super moms, right? We're going to fail. And actually, there's really no such thing as failing, because when you recognize that every situation, every obstacle is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to grow. It's an opportunity to extend compassion toward ourselves, right? Feel better. It's an opportunity to extend compassion to ourselves. So there's no missed opportunity, right? We can use everything as a way to evolve ourselves, because as we evolve, we allow our children to evolve as well, right? Another way that we add to our challenges is we should be this way, or we shouldn't feel this way, or motherhood should be happy. Oh, I should be having more fun, right? No, we can be honest with what this moment entails, right? We can be honest with what is here, right? And allow ourselves to take the pressure off. And when we spiral, right, say we get angry with a child, say we get angry and we lose our temper, and then to make matters worse, we spiral off into guilt and shame, right? So then we just keep pushing ourselves down, right? We go lower on the ladder, right? We keep going down. And how do we get ourselves out? One way of getting ourselves out is self-compassion, is recognizing this sucks, this hurts, this is horrible, right? And can I be with myself in this moment of suffering? And can I be kind? Because this doesn't feel good, right? So it's a way of lifting our energy. So I want to leave you just with, excuse me, some action steps to really help cultivate self-compassion, because this is not a quick fix overnight thing. At least it wasn't for me. This is a journey that takes trust. It takes, dedication, and step by step, we build that inner relationship where we actually become our own best friend, right? That may seem like, what, right? How can that be? But I promise you, we all have that ability to do that. And I'm learning every day, to meet myself where I am, to know what my needs are, and to the best of my ability, provide that for myself. Because in doing so, then I can provide for my child. So some takeaway action steps is that self-compassion break that I talked about, that the mindfulness, the common humanity, aware that we're all suffering, and then bringing kindness to ourselves, that you can implement and practice. Another is, if you are into meditation, a loving kindness meditation. So it's known as metta, or loving kindness. It's where we're offering loving kindness phrases to ourselves. And that also is just sort of priming the soil. It's getting ourselves to a place where maybe we can feel compassion toward ourselves. And so that, I have one on my website, and there's plenty if you just Google, loving kindness meditation. And that could be a practice every day for a month, and then see if that relationship with yourself has shifted. Journaling is also really helpful. Reaching out for support, right? It doesn't need to be professional, although professional support is a beautiful way to support yourself, but it could just be reaching out for support with friends, right? Being vulnerable with other moms, it gives other mothers a place to be vulnerable too, and together to connect, right? Connect and support each other. And start incorporating things back into your life that start your own small parenting group. That's beautiful, right? That's beautiful, a way to support each other. And I think maybe what Shannon was starting to say about not losing your identity as a mom, really starting to support yourself with things that you like to do that maybe has nothing to do with parenting. Maybe you like, music or painting, or reading books and, fiction books, or whatever it is. Start, really small, even 5 minutes a day of bringing back things that bring you joy, and reminding yourself that your identity is so much greater than just a mom, because that's a way of caring and being kind to yourself. And I'm going to end it there because I'm like 2 minutes over. So I appreciate everyone's presence, and thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Amanda, thank you so much. A lot of light flowing into this live stream. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it. And Shannon is back online with us. I will open up questions again, perhaps after Shannon, or perhaps after my presentation. I will see how we go with time. So let's just put Shannon in here. Hold on, I'm just looping my screen. Shannon, I'm going to mute you again. I need muted. There she is. Hey, Shannon, welcome back. Hi.
Sorry about that.
Right.
That will be the Italian weather for you up here at almost 3,000 meters. All right, well, I'm super excited to be back. Let's dive in. So my mission is all about helping mums to see themselves as a woman, to help them, which is probably very different to what the direction of the conversation is, but I really believe that when we prioritize ourselves as a mum, as a woman inside of the parenting dynamic and inside the family dynamic, we thrive. And when we thrive, our kids thrive. And when we thrive, our relationship thrives with our husbands or same-sex couples. And I think that this is a really important element that sometimes we don't think about in terms of how the relationship that we have with ourselves, how we see ourselves, and the things that we want for our own lives have an immediate effect on those that are closest to us, which obviously is our husband and our children. So I suffered from 2 very bad bouts of postnatal depression with both of my kids, and it was a really challenging time. And through the second bout of postnatal depression with my youngest son, Harry, I was forced into a place of darkness that really forced me to have to find myself. I had to find myself. And through that journey of self-discovery, I found self-love. And it's similar to what Amanda was speaking on, but you know, self-love is this act of ultimately having enough respect for yourself, I believe. And of course, you know, this is going to pertain to every person individually and in a very different way. But it's having enough respect for yourself as a woman to not give up on what you ultimately desire and how you want to live your life outside of your children. So when I was in those spaces of darkness, I had given up everything. I had stopped prioritizing me. I wasn't looking after myself. My background is actually strength and conditioning and nutrition for female hormones. My husband and I owned an internationally recognized gym back in Australia. And so that is actually my background. In terms of bachelor degrees in coaching or psychology or anything, I don't have that. What I do have is experience. What I do have is lived in experience to changing my own life and helping other women to do exactly the same through the process of self-love, self-acceptance, you know, appreciation, and giving themselves the permission to see themselves as amazing, incredible, magical, like whatever it is for you, to really be able to see yourself as that and stand in that and own that, even with your children by your side. So the reason that this is such a beautiful, I feel like this is such a beautiful conversation that we're having right now, is I watched my mum give up on her dreams. I watched my mum give up on her entire life. And here she is visiting, because my husband is in America, helping me with my 2 kids. She's 62 years of age and she has nothing going on. She put herself aside while she nurtured and developed and, you know, played house inside of our family dynamic. And I appreciate that so much. But what I know to be true is that the more that I lead myself and follow my dreams and show my daughter Millie, who is 6 years old, what it means to be a mum who looks after herself, who eats well, who prioritizes movement, and who follows her dreams, who's up working late at night, you know, ingesting all of this amazing information, spending all this time on calls. Mom, are you getting on another call? Yes, darling, I am. She pops her head in, talking to my clients online. And I love that. I love that she gets to see her mum living out something that fills her with so much passion. And I believe that there are a lot of women, a lot of mums who do exactly what my mum did. I don't know if you guys resonate with what I'm saying, but I don't want to see, it's my mission to help mums step out of that old paradigm and to step into a new one and create their own story alongside nurturing their children to step into their own new stories. I think that this is something that we really have to realize and recognize inside of bringing up our children, is that they are their own little people with their own little minds, and they're going to have their own little dreams. And at some point, they are going to fly the coop. At some point, they're going to want to go off and experience the world. And my hope is that you don't get left behind as a mum, because it's absolutely soul crushing. And I watched my mum do that. And even now, she's here and she has such a negative view on what I'm doing because she simply doesn't understand it. And we've been having these beautiful discussions. She arrived, she flew in from Australia on Monday, so she's only 2 days been here. And, you know, asking her interesting questions, like just trying to probe. Like, what is it that you love to do? Would you like to do something while you're here in Italy? What would you love to do? Is this something you want to see? Do you want to take a drive? Do you want to travel across the border to St. Moritz? And there's really just not much spark. She loves seeing her grandkids, which does bring her joy. But I really want to empower those mums who are on here who may not have that mission, who may not have, you know, that thing outside of their kids. You weren't put here to just change dirty diapers and live in the kitchen and go and fold another freaking load of washing. You weren't put here to do that. You have your own life. You get to have your own dreams. And if you're using your children as an excuse to not follow those dreams with all of the love in my heart, at some point that's going to come crashing down on you, because those children are going to leave. And then what happens? Then what happens? So my mission, my intention with my talk, and Alexa's asked me to wrap it up a little bit because my poor internet connection, is to encourage you to lean into self-love and to love yourself enough to stop using those children as an excuse to not look after yourself, to stop using those children as an excuse to pursue something that lights your heart on fire, to stop using those children as an excuse as to why you are not spending more time with your husband. Stop using those children as an excuse as to why whatever it is, the next thing that comes into your mind is not happening for you. Because what I know to be true after working with so many incredible moms is that when we find them and they learn to love who they really are, their entire world changes. The connection, the intimacy improves with them and their husband. And I don't know about you guys, but what I know to be true is that when my husband and I are connected, when our communication is open and it's exploratory and we make the time for one another, my children behave themselves. If I recognize poor behavior happening in my kids, it's because something's not right with me, which we know from listening to the other beautiful speakers. Everything that is happening out there is a reflection of what's happening in here. So if we can start loving ourselves and prioritizing ourselves more and stop making those excuses, you will take back your power and you will bring life back into your family. And when you bring life back into your family, there is less chaos. There is less arguments. There is less reactive behavior by us. There's less reactive behavior by our children. And the entire family dynamic, it really does connect on such a, I want to say, intimate level. You know, it just becomes easy. So a couple of questions that maybe you can journal on if this is something that you like to do. If it's not something that you enjoy doing, something that I like to give to my clients is actually voice memo themselves. I love to, you know, because when you hear yourself speak, you know, the things that you're saying really connect to you on a deeper level. I don't know if any of you have experienced that, but, you know, that's something that I do prioritize, is voice memoing myself. Like I'm in the car, or, you know, I'm on a walk, and then I'm getting these beautiful downloads of things that, you know, thoughts. And when I take that into my voice note app on my phone and then I listen to it back, it really hits home. So here's a couple of questions for you that you can connect with that might help you to really make yourself a priority, really make yourself that leader and that light inside of your own family, and really empower your children to also do the same. So question number 1 is, what is your story? Like, what brought you to where you are today? How did you get to become a mum? What did that mean for you to become a mum? You know, what was it's really interesting because I never planned on being a mum. I was studying at university. I actually fell pregnant on the pill. Like, becoming a mum to 2 kids was not in the picture. But anyways, it happened, and, you know, it happened for me. So what is your story? Because I think when we connect to what got us to where we are, we have the ability to really shine a light on where we want to go. So if you're not clear on what you want in terms of who you are and how this looks in the family dynamic, then get clear on your story, because, you know, there will be snippets inside of that you can pull from to potentially spark something that you might like to start to invest time in. Maybe you want to invest money in. Maybe you want to, you know, I don't know. It's going to be specific for you. Who were you before your kids? Who were you? Because a lot of us aren't the same person once we have kids. So who were you before kids? Did you love her? Did you see her for who she really was? The woman that I was before kids she was quite young, and I'm so thankful for all of the, I don't know if I can swear on here. Can I swear on here? Look, we're all mums and we all say it in our head. I'm so thankful for all the shit I went through up until that point where I fell pregnant unexpectedly, because what that did was it changed the trajectory of my life. I was self-obsessed back then, and now I show up every single day helping women to transform their lives, regardless of whether they're a mum or not. So get connected to that. Like, who were you before you had kids? Who do you want to be now, and why? Who do you want to be now? Who do you want to be now, and why? And what are you not doing right now to make that happen? What are you not doing right now to make that happen? Because there's always something that we can do. There's always something that we can do better. We can always, you know, be better, think better, behave better. You know, as coaches, that's our job. As coaches, it's our job to put ourselves in those moments where we can break through and become a better person. So we're kind of used to that. But for you mums who may not be in that realm, what are you not doing right now that is helping you to step into that? Like, who do you really want to be? How do you really want this family to look? Because you're a catalyst for that. You're a catalyst for that. Not changing your children, not changing your husband. Like, in a week, he's still not going to be taking out the garbage, right? It's you, it's me. We are the powerhouses, okay? So what are you not doing? And then let's create an action plan around that. How are you going to execute that? How are you going to bring that in? If you know you're not doing a particular thing, for example, a daily intention, a commitment to 30 minutes of movement every day. is that going to make you a better mom? Is that going to make you a better you? I can guarantee it is. And if you're not doing that, then how can we create a plan to make that happen from tomorrow? So next question, what do you need to let go of? What do you need to let go of to allow the space for that to actually happen, for that action plan to be put in place, for you to start to implement the things that are going to make you a better you? What do you need to let go of? Number one's probably your excuses around why you're not doing those things. But what inside of that? Are you telling yourself you don't have enough time? Are you telling yourself there are more important things? I can tell you right now, that pile of washing can wait. The dishes in the sink can wait. You'll get to them before you go to bed. You'll get to them before you go to bed. Okay? So I want you to make you a priority. I want to encourage you and empower you that you are the catalyst inside of a harmonious family, children that are connected. I mean, they're kids. They're still going to have their own ideas for how they want things done. But when you're in a really good place, you will bring them with you. You will bring them with you. They will calibrate to how you feel. And when you feel really good, it's just natural. It's just natural. So I hope that has been empowering for you guys. I tried to keep it short and sweet. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you so much. I'm glad the connection was better this time. Beautiful message, beautiful insights, lovely questions, you know, bringing more light into our experience as moms. Thank you very much. Appreciate your contribution. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay. Last but not least, my turn, guys. Thank you so much for your patience and for sticking with us this far. I'm Alexia Vlachos-Kolokasidis, and I'm a transformational coach for moms, light worker, and conscious parenting advocate. So a little bit about what I want to share with you today here. I would like to give you some clarity. Sorry, my topic actually for today is how to have more energy as a mom, to be happier and have an easier life as a mom and with your kids. And I'm going to share 3 things with you. My intention actually is these 3 things to help you have clarity about why you're not having the energy that you want, you know, the reasons behind that. The second thing is that I want to highlight your most powerful resource that you have available to you right now inside of you, so that you can have that energy and experience the reality that you want as a mom, okay? And then the third step, I would like to take you through an actual experience of that, okay? So a little bit of background on me. I'm actually born in South Africa. I have Greek origin. I was raised in South Africa, and I moved from South Africa to a tiny little island of Cyprus in the Mediterranean Sea, which is actually one of the biggest decisions I made in my life. I am a mom to 2 crazy kids. They are 7.5 and 3.5. Sophia's the younger one and Cristiano's the older one. And they are actually, like everybody has said on the panel, my greatest teachers, and the reason actually why I am where I am today. So my journey as a transformational coach actually began a long time before I was actually consciously aware of it, because the major decisions in my life that have brought me to where I am today, all filled with major challenges and major breakthroughs. One of them being moving from South Africa to Cyprus, tiny little island. The other one being getting married to my dream guy. And the next one being becoming a life coach. That was, you know, one of the big ones. And then the next one was huge one, becoming a mom. And the next one, which is the most recent one, is actually deciding to leave the corporate world which was about four years ago, leave the corporate world and be a stay-at-home mom to nurture my kids and nurture my spiritually conscious business. So all of these segments of my life have brought huge challenges, okay, but also the big breakthroughs and the ladders of what I needed in my life to go to the next level, okay. And I am who I am today because of these challenges and everything that the gifts that they've given to me. One of the major obstacles that I had were in motherhood was when I was a new mom. I think most of us experienced this, and Shannon shared her experience of the depression, you know, the dark times of motherhood. I think in some way we all go through something like that. And with my firstborn, I had so many high expectations of myself, of what type of mother I was going to be. I had a perfect picture of the type of mom I would be, of the type of life we would have, of the type of baby I would have, and it was totally blown out of the water. I was caught totally by surprise, and I had thoughts of, you know, I'm not cut out for this. I don't know how to do this. Whereas I was doing everything, like the doing part, the exclusively breastfeeding, the sleepless nights, everything on the outside looked perfect, but on the inside, it was really, really hard, and it was really dark, okay? So that part of my motherhood journey led me to searching, and I found conscious parenting, like Sandra and like Kelly and Amanda and everybody. I found conscious parenting through Dr. Shafali's work, and through that healing and through that growth, I thought I needed to share this with other moms. There's moms that are experiencing the same thing, and they need to know that there's a better way. There's a better way to raise your kids. There's a better way to raise yourself with your kids. So I began incorporating conscious parenting into my workshops, and then I had my second born, and things took a back seat again, and now she's at an age where she's more independent, and I'm free to do the work that I'm doing now, which is truly, truly divine work. Okay, so I know that everybody's got dreams, and I want you moms and everybody, all women, to know that all dreams are possible. If they are inside of you, it means they've been planted in you for a reason, and you actually have a responsibility to make those dreams a reality, okay? You will come up with challenges, you will come up head to head with your deepest, you know, darkest secrets, and that's okay, right? I'm going to show you why we are where we are today, why you as a mom experience life as a mom as you're experiencing it today, on the topic of being low in energy, on the topic of not, you know, having that, not experiencing your motherhood journey as you'd like, okay? So first of all, how do we experience reality? Our reality is experienced through our senses. They are the gifts that we've been given to experience our reality. And just quickly, I'm going to just give you a quick, basic understanding of how a projected reality gets, you know, on the screen of our life. So we pick up all these data from our senses. It's billions of data, billions, but we only get to experience a very tiny amount of that, because everything gets filtered through our belief systems, through our conditioning, through your experiences in your past, your emotional imprints, and all that wiring that's already happened on the inside from your childhood up to where you are now, okay? So we're talking about beliefs, we're talking about values, we're talking about your needs as a human, that type of thing. These are all your filters. So you're collecting all this data, which is actually pixels of information. You don't need to worry about all this, but just to understand that what you see is not really reality. It's just a projection of your own, what I'll call my reality, okay? So all your beliefs, all that, it's like a mechanism. Imagine you're holding a cup of beach sand, right? And you got to get this beach sand into a tiny funnel just to fit a tiny little petri dish at the bottom. So there's a lot of beach sand, okay, billions of little grains, and you're pouring it through the tiny funnel. In the tiny funnel, there's got a little mechanism of shapes and sizes, and only those specific sizes that are in the cup will fit through that funnel, okay? So the shapes and the sizes in the mechanism are actually your belief systems, your conditioning, your values that are already inside of you, and they're working, they're conditioning you, they're your programming, okay? So the beach sand goes in, but only the ones that's got a special shape. I know beach sand has only like a grain shape, but just imagine these stars and circles and squares, okay? So the ones that you have in your mechanism get to pass through the hole at the bottom of the funnel and give you that beautiful sand, shapes of sand in the dish, which is your reality. So only that which is familiar to you on the inside will be shown to you in your projection of your reality. Okay, so that's on your conditioning. This is a bit of this is the clarity that I wanted to share with you about why you have the low energy as a mom. Okay, and I'll go into that now. We have the belief systems of the old motherhood paradigm. So those are all sucking your energy, okay? Because it's not who you are intrinsically meant to be, okay? I'll just go through some belief systems that you might be running on automatic pilot without you even realizing it. Know that these are lower grade vibrations, and focusing on them takes a lot of energy, even if you're doing it subconsciously, okay? So take note of what resonates with you, and know that it's something that you can work with, okay? So, and know that these are all illusions, right? They're all illusions that are coming up for you now so that you can change the hologram, okay? So, some beliefs now that are imprinted in mothers worldwide. The belief that you have to sacrifice for the sake of your children's happiness, okay? Or the belief that being a mom is a struggle, or that your children never listen to you, or the belief that you never have time for yourself anymore, or that belief that you aren't intelligent enough to be in an important position in business or to become an entrepreneur. Sorry, just letting Kelly in. Or the belief that your body is terrible and you're not confident in your body, or the belief that you're overwhelmed, or the belief that there's a struggle to find balance between work and life, or that you've lost yourself to your motherhood journey, or that women aren't taken seriously in business, or that you don't have time, or you're always tired, or that moms always worry. What about that one? Moms always worry. How energy draining is that belief? You know, if it's running inside of you. I don't want to be a worrying mom. I don't know about you, okay? That it's too late to change, that you've messed up your kids, that your kids are too attached to you, that your marriage is suffering because of having children, or that the romance dies after children, or that you don't have patience, or that you're not a creative mom, or that you are a control freak, or that you obsess over dirt, or the belief that you don't know how to be a good mom, or that you aren't beautiful, or that you're less than perfect, or the belief that you must look and act a certain way. The same applies to your kids, or that you believe you've missed your big chance in life, or that you're a terrible mom, or that you need someone to feel complete, or the belief that you're never going to get above water, or that you believe parenting is a constant struggle, or the belief that you will never live your dream life, and on and on and on, okay? I'll give you a long list that you can perhaps resonate with, okay? So everything I've just said to you are paradigms, okay? They're actually just statements, if you just look at it. They're just statements, but there are statements that you are taking on for yourself as truths, and they're beginning to become beliefs. And as children, if you have young children, as children, we do not have the capacity to decide what we're going to take on as our beliefs. So whatever is in our environment, up until the age of 6 or 7, I think, get imprinted onto us because we're basically in hypnosis mode, okay? And we're just getting stuff downloaded onto us without realizing it. So, but now as adults, we understand the process, and we know that we actually have the power and the knowledge and the support, the communities to change these beliefs that are running amok inside of us, okay? Because these beliefs are the things that are draining your energy. They're the things that are keeping you in the mindset of scarcity. They're keeping you in a mindset of worry. They're keeping you in discord on the inside. So of course, you are reflecting that out into your reality, and you're not going to have energy, because these actual things do not have energy. They do not have high vibratory energy for you. So you're going to keep experiencing the low energy. You know, you don't have energy to be with your kids, to play with your kids. You're always tired. I don't have energy to do the things that I need for self-love, self-care, that everybody's talked about already. Okay, so we need to change the stuff that's going on the inside, that's been taken on without us actually deciding. Okay, know that you can decide today. You can decide to change your story. You can decide to change the trajectory of your life. That's why we're having this amazing event, to shed light on the old paradigms of motherhood and to bring more light into your home. Okay, and so that's about the conditioning and why, and why you're having the low energy. So the next part that I want to share with you is the resource, the amazing tool that you have in your life right now that will help you to source organic energy in your life. And that is the heart. Okay. Oh, my little one's just woken up. Sophia, come. My husband's supposed to be watching her. So the heart is at the foreground of having energy. Sorry, just hold on a minute, please. Just give me a moment, guys. Sophia, go to Papa. Okay, he's gone. Okay, sorry. So this is motherhood, right? Okay, so where was I? Okay, so as a life coach, I only truly started to live deep happiness and joy when I began to really lean into my heart. So I was doing the mindset work, I was doing the techniques, I was doing the tools, I was working through my limiting beliefs and, you know, all that stuff that goes into life coaching and NLP and hypnosis. But I only truly started to realize and experience deeper happiness and joy and energy when I began to truly unlock the heart, okay? Unlock the essence of the heart and unlock the truths that are inside of my heart. So, sorry, okay. Just keeping a tab on my timer. Okay, so in order for us to experience like energized and feeling freer and lighter as moms, we're gonna deal with the stuff that's on the inside through clearing the belief systems, through clearing all that stuff that comes up, and the heart, accessing the heart, where that's the true blueprint. It's where everybody has their blueprint, okay? And following your desires, like Shannon shared so wonderfully with us, taking the action steps that you need to do the things that are important to you, that you love, okay? I'm getting funny sounds on here. Maybe put somebody on mute. Yeah, okay. Sorry. So your heart comes into the play. It is at the center of everything, okay? When you live from your heart and you filter, you have a lens about every experience in your life, that even the dark moments actually have a gift for you. When you're living through your heart and you have that lens open through all your experiences, you are much more able to, maybe, how can I say, not spend so much energy in the dark moment that you're in. So you're allowing the process, you know, the pain, the emotions, the whole journey to unfold as it should, okay? While understanding deep inside that there is something here for me now. In this moment, there is a gift for me. I might not see it right now, but you will in a day, in a week, you're gonna go like, oh my God, okay? But that requires, you know, that the openness of your heart, the openness and the willingness to listen and to surrender, okay? Okay, so, and this is actually the only way you can source real sustainable energy, through the joy and the connection of your heart, which is what Amanda said, you know, yourself, having that connection to yourself, being your best friend, all right? And also your heart is your connection to your soul, which is connected to source. So when you're connected to that line, when you're connected to that source, you're getting energy. Okay, you're connected to source. So what better way, right? And now I want you to know that the mindset is important. Okay, your mind is like your roadmap. Okay, but the roadmap is going to come with obstacles and challenges, mountains, boulders, bridges, whatever. Your heart is actually your compass. So keeping that in mind, doing the mindset work, and then allowing your compass to show you and to listen to those whispers, to listen to that intuition that comes through, go this way, go that way, and trusting the process that no matter what happens, you will be okay. Everything is okay because you're connected to source. You're connected to the higher power that actually, has your back. Okay. So it's a practice, guys. Like everybody said, like Sandra said, it's a daily practice. Like Amanda said, it's a daily practice of where you get to connect to your true authentic self, which is connected to source, and everything is energy. So you end up vibrating in a higher vibration. You end up having more joy. You end up responding to your kids gentler, not so reactive, which I notice a lot in my family. Okay, so when you discover who you want to be as a mom, how it's going to feel to have that lightness, to have that energy, to have that joy, and how it's going to be, interacting with your children in that way, you're going to discover all these gifts as you open yourself up to your heart intelligence, to your infinite possibilities as a mom, as you bring more light into your self. The more light you bring in, the more light you can give out. Okay. This is Sandra. Yes, the heart is energetic magnetic field. Yes. Yes, the heart actually has a much more powerful field than the brain. Scientists have discovered recently. So there you go. So of course, aligning the two, the mind and the heart, is the perfect tool, the perfect equation. So I want you to do a quick exercise, and then I'm going to take you through. I don't know how much time I've gone through. Sorry, guys. Okay, 20 minutes. Quick exercise. Right, I want you to think now, as a mom, something that your heart is whispering to you, something your heart is guiding you to do or to experience or trying to shed light on in your life. Okay, write that down. And then I want you to ask yourself, what's stopping you from experiencing that? What's the obstacle? What could be the possible wall that's stopping you? So the wall that you're thinking about is the problem, right? Because it's stopping you from achieving that thing that your heart is telling you, okay? So know that there is an energy attached to that, to the wall, to the problem. And when you get to deactivate that energy, when you get to diffuse that energy, you will be more open to finding a solution, okay? So I want to take you now through a heart activation. I've got a lot more to say, guys, but I'm going to take you through the heart activation, and that'll be the end of my presentation. But this is really, really important because I want you to experience the actual experience of being connected to your heart and experiencing that higher energy as a mom, okay? So it's like a guided meditation. So you're going to just take in a full body breath. And if you want, you can close your eyes. If you want, you can close your eyes and lay your hand on your heart. And start breathing into your heart. Start breathing into your body, feeling the waves of your breath going in and out, and engaging with this life force called breath. Take a few deep breaths there. And see your breath breathing and going into your heart. As you're breathing in, see your heart expand. And as you breathe out, your heart breathes out as well. So we're activating your heart lung now. Okay. So now as you're in that space inside of your heart, know that this is a sacred moment for you. Connecting with your heart on a daily basis is a sacred moment. And it can be part of your self-care. So notice now, breathing into your heart. I want you to imagine that there is a light switch. And at my command, you will flick that switch and your light will flood your heart. See a light shining out of your heart. So go ahead and flick that switch right now. And see that light go on inside of your heart. And notice how that feels inside that area. Allow the heart to feel that light. Breathing in, keep breathing. And fill your heart with that light now. And allow the light to overflow so that it spreads out into your chest. With each breath, spreads out into the back of your heart, the back of your back, all the way down your spine. Fill your body with this light. This is your source light. This is your essence. So your body now is filled with your light. Feel your body vibrating with this light. Feel the energy and the abundance in this light. Okay, and see it overflowing from your body. And now I want you to imagine in the center of your heart, there's a lake. It's a beautiful lake. And it's a still lake. And you can think of this lake as you being love. It's your love. Okay? So now you can take a diamond. Imagine you're holding a diamond and you throw this diamond into the lake. And you're rippling love now into your heart, activating your heart, activating the love inside. Feel the ripples of love rippling out of your heart, rippling into your body with each breath, filling your body with source love. And now, in this space, I want you to notice that problem that you wrote down, that wall that you imagined, and see it or feel it depending on what your modality is. You might be visual, you might be sensory. Feel it and see it in your root chakra, at the base of your spine, this problem. Just notice it there. It's taking so much of your energy to keep this alive in your life. And it's time to let it go and allow your energy to flow. So as you notice the problem, I want you to imagine a rainbow coming out of your heart. Remember as a child, and even now as an adult, when you see a rainbow, how excited you get and the energy that it fills you with. So imagine this rainbow now, just pouring out of your heart. It's vibrance, it's excitement, it's joy. And see the rainbow creating a bridge from your heart to your root chakra. And it's attaching itself to the problem, to that wall. And as the rainbow locks onto that problem, your heart is pumping now the rainbow's light through and into the problem, and almost like filling it up with rainbow energy and diffusing it. Almost as if the problem has now disappeared into the rainbow and it's no longer there. So your rainbow now has filled your root chakra. Feel that excitement, feel that joy, feel that flow in that area of your body. Playfulness, excitement. Feel the rainbow loosening up anything that has felt tight in that area. Let it travel down your pelvis, down your legs, to your feet, and then up into the rest of your body. Your body's a rainbow now. You've been activated with a rainbow. So this is an intelligent light tool. And your body is going to respond. Maybe not now, maybe in a few days. Okay? You have literally flooded that old problem with light, meaning that it's not a problem anymore. And you have opened now the space for a solution to come, for a way to be seen. Through the love and light from your heart and the rainbow. Because love truly is the bridge. Okay? So stay in that space as long as you want, or you can come back to the room when you're ready. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it was of value to you. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you, everybody. If anybody has any questions, thank you, Amanda. Any questions for Amanda, for Shannon, and for me, you can put them in the chat box right now. We will respond. Love you, Kelly. Thanks, everybody. So just a quick, I'm going to unmute you all. Just a quick thank you to everybody. And for the viewers that our guests have that, joined us, thank you so much. You will definitely be hearing from us in the coming weeks. You will get a chance to connect with all the coaches, and you will get the recording in your inbox tomorrow with all the details from each coach. Okay? Thank you very much for your time, guys. Thank you for the contribution. I love you and enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, so great to share the space with all of you. Bye,
Thank you very much, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.